In this video, we are testing whether the language your players speak actually matters in Football Manager 2024. So the primary question for this video is going to be, does a team perform better if all of their players speak the same language? Or will player performances be effective if they are less able to communicate with each other due to a language barrier? So this is what we're going to be testing today with 5 different teams to test this question. And our first team is going to be our control team. Every player is going to be from the same nation, and every player is going to speak the same language, which since we are in the Philippines, it is going to be Tagalog. Next up, though, we're going to have 3 teams, all of their players speak a different language from each other. So for example here, we've kept this player as Filipino, so he speaks Tagalog. But then we have his teammate here who speaks Dutch, another teammate who speaks Burmese, another teammate who speaks Welsh, and so on and so forth. So each of the players on this team are from a different nation, and they all speak a different language. But something that might affect how well players play in a country that they speak a different language from might be adaptability. So this team, everyone has a 1 for their adaptability rating. So this is the 1 adaptability different language team where every player speaks a different language from each other and they all have 1 adaptability. We have then copied this setup with this team where every single player is from a different nation. They all speak a different language from each other. But the defining characteristic for this team is that all of their players have a 10 for their adaptability rating. So we're going to see whether having that 10 for adaptability might help them get past the language barrier. And we have our final team here, where every player is from a different country, they all speak a different language, but these players have an adaptability of 20. So if the adaptability helps get past the language barrier, in theory, this team should do the best. But of course, in our 1, 10, and 20 adaptability teams, all those teams are also from different countries. So we still also want to tease out whether it's the language or the foreign country. So in this case, we have created another team where every single player is from the Philippines. However, all of these people speak a different language from each other. So for example, Alain Soriano here speaks English, but his teammates speak Bulgarian, Korean, and even Malay. So with these 5 different teams, we are going to test how important language actually is for a team. We have a control team where everyone's from the same country and speaks the same language. Then we have teams of varying adaptability levels from different countries who all speak different languages. And finally, we have one team where every player is from the same country, but they all speak a different language, so adaptability shouldn't be an issue. So here we're going to be able to tease out how important is language in Football Manager. But there are a few more things to do to make sure that we are controlling as many variables as possible. So the first thing that we have done is that every single player on all of those teams are an average player. They all have all of their attributes set as a 10. So here's one player from the control team. Here's one player from those adaptability teams. And here's a player from the team where they're from the same country, but all speak different languages. So as you can see, every single player in this simulation has an attribute level of 10 for all of their attributes. And to keep things consistent across the board, I have made sure that the current ability for each player is 78. So I've gone through every single player and made sure that their current ability is 78 because that's, for all the positions, that's about what an average player looks like. So every single player on the 5 teams that we are testing with here, all are exactly the same, aside from the language they speak, the countries they're from, and varying levels of adaptability. But there were still a couple more things that we needed to do to ensure that we are controlling for as many variables as possible. So what I've done is I've made every head coach on each of our 5 teams identical. They all have a preferred formation of a 4-4-2. They all have the exact same coaching and attributes, all of them being a 10. And if we look at their staff details, they all have a current ability of 97, They all have hidden attributes that are all 10. Again, everything is a 4-4-2. And if we look at the attributes that define their style of play, they are all 10. So every club has the exact same manager, and every club has the exact same reputation of 5,000. And in their facilities, I've given them all 10s for training, youth junior coaching, and youth recruitment. And this is to ensure that as many variables as possible are controlled for within reason. So previously that was the control team. This is the one adaptability team. They also have a reputation of 5,000, and they also have facilities that are all 10. So in theory, every player is identical aside from the things we're controlling for. Every head coach is identical, so they should be playing the same formation and style of play. And each club is identical, so there shouldn't be any reputation differences that might affect how the teams line up against each other. So hopefully here we will be able to actually isolate the effect of language on player performances in Football Manager. And the interesting thing is that when I actually look at it, every team has the exact same odds for finishing first in the Philippines Football League, which I think makes things very interesting. And I think that shows that we've done a good job of controlling for all those factors. Interesting though, ADT and Mendiola have the same odds as well. I'm not really sure why, as I didn't change anything there. But that being said, if we go back to our stages here, this is everything for the experiment. This is the entire setup. So what I'm going to do now is to make sure that we have a somewhat-ish large sample size within reason for what I can do. I'm going to simulate 5 seasons. So I'm going to simulate one season 5 times. So we're going to have 5 different league tables to look at. And the reason I'm not doing 5 straight seasons, the reason that I'm simulating the same season 5 times, is because once we get past one season, there are going to be too many extraneous factors that I can't control for. Managers are going to get fired. They're going to bring in new players. So by simulating one season 5 times, I think this is going to give us a decent sample size for what we're looking at, but also it's not going to lead into another extraneous factors that could potentially affect the results of our experiment. So again, I'm going to simulate 5 seasons. We're going to see the results of those 5 seasons together. And then I'm going to do a little Excel sheet where I'm going to put up their total number of points over 5 seasons. And then we're going to see which team had the most points, which team had the least points, and did the control team do the best? Did the team where they're all from the same country, but they speak a different language, maybe they're going to do a best? Or does the 20 adaptability team do the best? We are about to find out. Let's move forward to the first sim. All right, this is the end of the first simulation, and the interesting result is the control team has finished second to last of our teams. The 20 adaptability team has done the worst, but the team who all spoke different languages but were all from the same country, they did the best. They won the league. And the kind of bad and middle adaptable teams did pretty well too. So this is only one season, but some interesting results so far, and that maybe speaking a different language so far. Sim 1 doesn't matter too much, but let's head into simulation number 2. And then this is the results of simulation number 2, and it's almost identical, but the control team's done the worst. The control team's having an absolutely shocking, and the ones from the same country but different language, they won the league. And otherwise, I think it was the same, 10 adapt, 1 adapt, 20 adapt. Otherwise, wow, okay. Now we can't make overarching conclusions just from these 2 simulations, but so far, it seems like language isn't mattering too much. All right, the simulation for 3 is much different because the control team did a lot better. The 20 adaptability team won the league, and the same country, different language team did quite poorly. I mean, so far the results are very muddy. Extremely muddy results so far. Let's go, let's look at the 4th season. And the 4th season is also quite muddy. The 10 adaptability team won. The control team's doing a lot better right now, but now the same country, different language team is doing the worst. Man, there's so much variability that goes into Football Manager. Even, identical teams, identical managers. I mean, there's just not very, very muddy results right now. I'm not sure what to make of this yet. We're gonna have to eventually look at the data. And then for the fifth and final simulation, the control team won. How did they win? They must have won on goals for. But then same country, different language is right back at the top too. And then the adaptability teams were the worst. And the 20 adaptability team was the worst. Okay, well, that is all 5 seasons. I'm going to add up the total points across the 5 seasons. I'm going to stick that in Excel sheet. I'm going to show you guys the Excel sheet. We're going to talk through the results together on that Excel sheet. And then we'll come back here and do our little outro. Same country, different language finished in first place with 233 total points. After that, our control group with 224 points. And then after that, 10 adaptability with 223, very close. And then some way behind was our 1 adaptability. And very interestingly, our 20 adaptability groups. So what do we take from these results? Well, the first thing that I'm thinking is it doesn't seem like speaking a different language is wholly important to the game. So I think what we've seen here is that as far as player performances are concerned and performing to their level, the control group didn't do the best. So it doesn't seem like if our players are speaking a different language, then it's going to affect their performances too much. What I think, though, might be important more so is whether or not they're actually from the same country. So this team was from the same country, the control group, every player was from the same country, and it seems like assuming that all the players are of a similar level of ability, perhaps being from the same country means we don't have any adaptability issues that's going to allow them to perform to their best. There must be something coded in the game maybe that I'm sure the language is a part of, but I'm sure there are other factors related to, what country they're from and what country they're playing in that might more likely influence how the players actually do. The level of adaptability didn't really affect how the players performed. 10 adaptability was the best, but then 1 adaptability and 20 adaptability was way behind. So even though they were speaking a different language and from different countries, it doesn't seem like adaptability played a huge role in that. My guess for that is I think adaptability may be a little bit more related to player development, so that we know that especially in young players, if they're moving to a different country and have adaptability issues, they're not going to have as high of training ratings and they're not going to develop as well, especially in that first season. A lot of the players that we had in this league were well established and were a lot further along in their careers. So that could explain why adaptability didn't seem to have a huge influence on this save. I think if we found a way to extend this save over maybe 5 years and we didn't freeze their attributes and make every player the same, I think adaptability would have played a much bigger role. There is also the potential that language could play a role in how players develop over a series of times. This is something that we did not test with their final rankings. We only tested this with player performances. But overall, it seems like language may not play a direct role in player performance. It just seems like there's so many other things that go into it that from this experiment, it doesn't seem like language plays a huge role. That being said, I still think it's important for if you have brought in a new player, sending them on an intensive language course is probably still important because it'll probably help with adaptability and development. From what we've got here, it seems like being from the same country is perhaps more important than being able to speak the same language. But that being said, I would say it's probably still important for development. And if at some point in the future I figure out a way to test that, I will absolutely go for it. Well, that is everything that I have for this Football Manager experiment. I would like to give a massive shout out to Cloud Reacher Gaming, who presented the idea for this video and this experiment in our comment section. So massive thank you to Cloud Reacher Gaming. You've been on a lot of the videos, so thank you so much. But if you have any ideas or anything you're curious about in Football Manager, let me know in the comments and I will try to do an experiment about that if I can. And the last thing that I want to touch on before we leave is I would like to give a massive shout out to Evidence-Based Football Manager, or EBFM. They announced in a recent video that they are retiring, that they are leaving YouTube, and they are one of the best football manager creators that I think we've ever had on the YouTube scene. They have been the absolute king of football manager experiments. I have learned so much about playing football manager from them. So I'd like to give a massive shout out to EBFM. If for some reason you found this channel before you found EBFM, I highly recommend going and watching their videos. They are super informative, super well thought out, and a lot of effort has been put into those experiments. I highly recommend giving them a watch, and I hope that they have a wonderful retirement from YouTube and are doing very well. But on that note, that is everything that I have for this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!